Good morning. So this morning I've tried to make it so that you can see what I'm doing and hopefully it will work. So I gathered all my things together. I have lots of supplies and there's Callie's tail in the video. I have food coloring and I have some paint. She just took a sip of my water. I have a sifter. I have scissors. I have some odds and ends silverware that's in my craft supplies. Did I say paintbrushes yet? I have paintbrushes. Did I say this? Measuring spoons. And I have my soil samples and some containers to work in. What do you think we're going to do today? We're going to try and make some mud paint. I've never made mud paint. I have taken, parents, you can do this. We can't do it at the school because they won't let us use shaving cream. But it's really cool if you take shaving cream and put it in a cup and put glue in with the shaving cream. And I don't know if it's about half and half, but probably close to like a half and half. Probably, I don't know, just a consistency, and you'll see what happens when you mix the shaving cream with the glue. It makes like a puffy type of paint. You can also add some sand into that and then have them paint that way, but we can't do that at school. So I'm not going to show us how to do that, but that's something that you could do at home, because shaving cream, and if you get the, what's the brand name? It's in a blue can. Anyway, because you'll be right there, and I think it's the safety factor on that is maybe under 3 or maybe 3. I'm not sure. But if you're home, I think they're more worried about children ingesting it. We've used shaving cream for years and years and years for kids to spread on the table and to write letters and numbers and put it in paint. But at this point, Barbasol is the name. We can't do that. So anyway, friends, we're going to try and make paint, and it won't be puffy paint, but it will be sandy paint with our soil samples. So the reason I got the strainer is because my soil sample has some stones in it, and I don't want the stones in my paint. So I am just putting my sandy loam and breaking down some of those pieces through a sifter, through a very small sifter. And you don't have to do this step. It's not necessary to do this step. I'm just doing it, and you could do it through a sieve. There's lots of different ways that you could do this. I'm just choosing to do it through this because I have it. Whoops! And so much for that. I just tipped some all over the place. So I'm going to put this in here, some of the pieces that I don't want, and then I'll dump that back out in the soil. So what's happening, can you see? Oh yeah, you can see. What's happening is I'm getting all the soil without the stones and without the little pieces of twig, and if they're broken up small enough where they can go through there, that's all included in the soil, because we know that that's what is in the soil. So I know that I'm not going to be able to make a video of this for very long because of the time frame, but I kind of wanted you to see some of the steps that I'm going through to do this, okay? And maybe I'll do it in 2 parts so that you can see it, because we're almost at the 5-minute mark, and I know it's hard to sit through that long anyway, and I'll have to upload this differently. So look at, I have some soil here. Whoops, there it is. And I'm going to use my muck, or the heavy soil that I got down, and I don't think this stuff is going to be, I'm not going to have to put that through the sieve, but I'm just going to smash it up a little bit, because remember, it's in big chunky pieces. So when I put that in there, and if you do this and you don't look through your materials, your soil, make sure that you do, because now this one I just saw a piece of twig, So I'm taking that out, but you don't want to have any worms in here when you get your soil. So make sure there's no worms. Okay, so this soil is a little heavier, and we'll see what happens when we add some water to our soil. And this one may make more than one thing of paint. I'm not sure. I think I'm going to actually try it. I'm going to put part of this in another container because I'm thinking I can make at least 2 things of paint, 2 colors of paint. So I've got 1, 2, 3. Let's pull them back a little bit. Oh, you can kind of see them. 3 samples, and I have my plate that I'm going to work on top of too, and I have paper on the table to protect the table. So the first thing I'm going to do, I actually am going to take this one and put it into 2. See, there's not very much sand in there, but I think as we are making our paint mixtures, you won't need that much because it's going to go a long way. So I separated those 2 too so we could see what happens. So since I use this in the dirt, I'm not going to use that one, and I'm going to set the dirt samples to the side. And that extra cup, I don't need those yet. And I'm going to take another teaspoon, measuring spoon. This one is a 1/2 tablespoon. So remember when we talked about these, when we were working with these and we were measuring sugar and flour and we put it in like this? And then remember we took the back of a knife and we scooped across. We talked about that, how we make a level spoon. So you see that how level and nice that is. So let's just take 1/2 tablespoon and we'll put it in there. And we'll set these samples aside for just a second and we'll work with this one. Okay, so I'm going to take let's see, I'm going to take the same. So we have 1 part sand and 1 part water equal. So a 1/2 tablespoon of sand and a 1/2 tablespoon of water. And I'm going to take my knife and I'm going to mix it up. And it's kind of a real, can you see how runny that is? It's a runny consistency. I don't know if that's going to be too runny, and that's why we're experimenting, because I might have put too much water in with my sand. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my food coloring, and I'm going to pick, I'm not going to pick yellow because I don't think yellow will show up in the dark sand. What do you think? I don't think it will. Maybe it will. And we'll have to try, maybe, let's just try it and we'll find out. I'm going to put yellow on here and here. The reason that I wanted to pick yellow was because yellow is a color that reminds me of all of you, because yellow is the color of the sun, and you're like sunshine in my everyday. So we have, I'll control my emotions. We have, it does have a yellow tint to it. So we have some yellow, kind of yellow colored sand paint. I'm going to put it on my tray, or my plate here, and let you see. I don't know if you can see that it kind of is a yellowish tint. It looks almost more like green, because I think the dark brown turned the yellow kind of a dirty color. But that's kind of a cool color. I like that. I'm glad I tried it and didn't say, no, we're not going to use that because it's so light it won't show up. It did show up. That's why we always have to try things. All right, so these are the colors that I have. I have yellow, green, red, and blue. All right, so remember we took we took equal parts. So now I'm going to have to do that again because I'm going to take oopsie, I'm not being as careful this time, but I'm taking a half a tablespoon of sand and a half a tablespoon of my water. And I have to find my knife and I'm going to stir it around. So we know what the food coloring does. And if you didn't have food coloring home, and if you have paint, I wondered what would happen if you added paint. So I'm going to choose another light color. I'm going to use pink paint. And I'm just going to put a dab of pink paint into our sand. Well, maybe a couple dabs of this color, this kind of paint. And I will get another brush. And I'm going to stir it around here. And I don't see pink. But when I brush it on the plate, let's see what happens. Oh, that brush puffed all up. So this is what happened with the pink paint. It just looks more like brown. Let's see. I can't see what I'm showing you. Okay. Whoops. And it's running down the plate. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of red right on top of the pink one because it didn't change the paint color. It made it a little bit lighter. I mean the sand. But I'm going to add a little bit of red and see if that helps it at all. And I'm going to stir it up. Oh yeah, it did. And you will be able to see these changes at home if you do the same kind of experiment. But I'm going to put it right next to the other one. And it actually makes it look more pink. You see? How cool is that? Okay, now that I used that half a tablespoon, I'm trying to figure out where to put my paintbrush. I guess it doesn't matter if I lay it down. I have paper on the table. I think this is too much. So I'm going to go back to our measuring spoon and I'm going to get just a half and pour the rest in the other container because I don't want it to be too much paint because that's a lot of paint. All right, and we're going to add our water, a half a tablespoon of water. Whoopsie, it's dripping. Oh, golly. I just messed up my samples that I showed you. And I will get another brush. And this time I'm going to do blue. And we'll see what happens when I add blue. This is heavier sand. Remember, this is the mucky loam. And, or the mucky, not loam, but the mucky soil that's down by the river. And I put a little blue in there. And I'm going to put that on here. And whoops, now I got to get that water off. I'm just going to pour it on the paper. Look how dark that is. You see how dark it is? So it really doesn't look blue. So what I'm going to do is I think you could do one of two things. If you had white, if you don't, that's okay. And if you have other paint, I'm going to try and put some light blue paint in with that and see if that changes at all. And I'm going to stir it up and see if it changed it at all. And the answer is it didn't. It didn't really change it at all. It looks different on here because of the stripe of the brush, how it was applied. But it really didn't change the color at all. So, because the soil is so dark, you might have to add a lot more paint to make it lighter. So let's try. We're not going to add the whole bottle of paint because then we might as well just paint with paint and not with mud. But we'll see if it happens. So it did change the color. Let's see if you can see it. Can you see? Whoop, I gotta get it over here. So it made it almost a gray color. It changed it. It's almost a gray looking color. And that is because the dirt sample is so dark, it's like black. So in order to make lighter colors, you have to add something light, like white paint. And I didn't bring any white paint with me when I got all set up and ready to go. So these are the samples that I have so far. And I thought maybe if I did, so we've got our pink or red, we've got our yellow, and we've got our grayish blue color. And those are right all in front of you, and yet you can't see them. So the next thing I'm going to do is I just got a bag, a paper bag, because I thought, well, maybe this would be something good to paint. Because, oh! My scissors caught the edge of the water and spilled it all over. I gotta go. Bye.